dated here because I saw vicariously through my roommate how terrible it is.
Erica Kirk was dating Cabot Phillips. And if you haven't heard the story, basically, they were dating. They have all kinds of Instagram stuff together, you know, saying we're lovebirds. People are like, oh, you guys are the greatest couple. And they painted together, all this stuff, right? And the same dude was hanging out with Charlie.
I used to go to every single, Charlie and I were on the road probably 320 some days out of the year. All of a sudden, when I found out I was pregnant, I just stopped. I stayed home because I knew that once my little one was here, my focus.
The internet doesn't forget. And right now, it's remembering things that were supposed to stay buried forever. We're talking about Erica Kirk, the woman who built an empire on faith, family values, and the perfect marriage. But what if I told you that everything you thought you knew about her story was carefully constructed? What if the fairy tale romance was actually a business transaction? What if the grieving widow narrative was designed before anyone even needed to grieve? This isn't conspiracy theory anymore. This is documented evidence, leaked files, and people who were there from the beginning finally breaking their silence. An ex-fiancé just came forward with claims so explosive that even Joe Rogan couldn't hide his shock. Bank records showing six-figure payments. Calendar invites for coordination calls scheduled weeks before the relationship went public. Voice recordings where Erika allegedly says the quiet part out loud, that legacy matters more than love, and love is completely optional. But here's what makes this different from every other influencer scandal you've seen. This isn't about cheating or lies or fake followers. This is about power, control, and whether one of the most famous marriages in conservative media was orchestrated by people the public never knew existed. This is about a woman who allegedly erased years of her own history, deleted entire relationships, and rewrote her past to fit a narrative that would make her untouchable. And the most disturbing part? The evidence suggests she might have succeeded. Until now. Let's start with what everyone thought they knew. Erica Kirk was presented to the world as the ultimate example of godly femininity. Devoted wife, faithful partner, the woman who stood by her husband's side and carried his legacy with grace and dignity. Her social media was filled with Bible verses, family photos, and inspirational messages about faith and marriage. Millions of women looked up to her as the blueprint for how to live a Christ-centered life in the public eye. But behind that carefully curated image, there were questions people were too afraid to ask. Why did her background seem so vague? Why were there entire years of her life that had no digital footprint? Why did she claim she wasn't dating or socializing during the exact same period when footage exists of her on reality television in New York City, clearly living a completely different lifestyle? Those contradictions stayed buried for years because asking questions about Erika felt dangerous. Anyone who pushed too hard was labeled as hateful, disrespectful, or spiritually compromised. The circle around her was tight, the messaging was consistent, and the narrative was protected at all costs. But narratives don't fall apart because of one accusation. They fall apart when too many details stop making sense at the same time. That's exactly what's happening right now. An ex-fiancé has come forward claiming he was engaged to Erica Kirk years before Charlie ever entered the picture. Not a casual boyfriend, not a short-term relationship. An actual fiancé who says they were together for 2 full years, planning a future, meeting each other's families, and building what he thought was a genuine partnership. But according to him, something was always off. Erika would disappear for days without explanation. She kept a black notebook he wasn't allowed to see. And one night, when he finally looked inside, he found something that made his blood run cold. At the top of one page, 3 words: marriage as a mission. Underneath were bullet points that didn't sound like wedding planning. They sounded like corporate strategy. Influence is inherited. Legacy legitimizes. Emotion is dangerous. He says that's when he realized Erika wasn't planning a marriage. She was planning a merger, and he wasn't the right partner for the mission she had in mind. 6 months after they broke up, Erika appeared publicly with Charlie Kirk. No transition period, no explanation. Just a sudden, polished emergence into the spotlight, as if the previous 2 years had never existed. And here's where the timeline gets interesting, because according to leaked documents, there was a calendar invite labeled Kirk Coordination Call that took place 6 weeks before Erika and Charlie ever announced their relationship publicly. Who was on that call? Erica Kirk, a PR consultant, a finance director, and Charlie's scheduler, not Charlie himself. His scheduler. That's not how organic relationships begin. That's how brand partnerships get negotiated. Then came the financial evidence. A leaked email with the subject line, "Securing Union Details Confidential," contained a breakdown that looked nothing like wedding planning and everything like a contract. $265,000 held in escrow. 1 year of third-party PR oversight. Cyber-proof talking points for the announcement timeline. 4 staged engagement photos with controlled leak strategy. Non-disclosure agreements for all parties involved. And the signature at the bottom? Not Erika's. Her father's name was on the acceptance line. Harold Kirk confirmed. Not the bride signing off on her own wedding. Her father confirming a business arrangement. People tried to dismiss it as fake, photoshopped, taken out of context, until more evidence kept appearing. Bank statements showing large deposits labeled Project Virtue Phase 1, hitting Erika's accounts the exact same week the engagement was announced. Payment records from a nonprofit political action committee affiliate going directly to E. Kirk. Amounts over 6 figures that nobody could explain and nobody would address. But the evidence that changed everything wasn't financial. It was video. Grainy footage from years ago showing Erika at a private gathering with 2 other women. One of them asks her directly, "What do you want out of this long term?" And Erika's response is chilling. No warmth, no emotion, just cold calculation. She says, "Legacy. I want to be the woman behind the empire. Beside it. Behind it. Silent. Respected. Untouchable." Then she laughs and adds 5 words that destroyed her entire brand. "Love is optional." 17 seconds of footage. That's all it took. Because those 17 seconds revealed what everyone had been sensing but couldn't articulate. This wasn't a woman who fell in love and built a life. This was someone who identified a target, executed a strategy, and positioned herself exactly where she needed to be. And then came the bombshell that made even her defenders go silent. Claims emerged about a paternity test, not for Erika herself, for someone else. A third party. A man who had briefly been in her life during a period she claims she was completely faithful and devoted. According to insiders, in mid-2021, Erika allegedly arranged a private DNA test involving this individual. When the results came back, that person disappeared completely, deleted all social media, changed phone numbers, vanished. Erika never spoke about it publicly, never addressed it privately with anyone outside her inner circle. But her ex-fiancé claims she told him in a moment of panic that someone might find out. Now the whole world is asking, find out what? And if there's nothing to hide, why the silence? Why the disappearance? Why the complete erasure of someone's entire digital existence? Here's where the story goes from scandal to something much darker. Because people started connecting dots that were never supposed to be connected. Old rally footage resurfaced, showing familiar faces standing close together. A child positioned between 2 adults in ways that looked comfortable, familiar, repeated. On its own, meaningless. But in context of erased timelines and hidden relationships, it became impossible to ignore. Then came the term that changed the entire conversation. Handler. Not girlfriend, not wife. Handler. Someone positioned close enough to control access, manage perception, filter information, and make sure the right narrative stayed protected. A handler doesn't dominate publicly. They operate quietly. They stay in the background until the moment they need to step forward. And when they do, they're already in position. That theory gained traction not because people wanted it to be true, but because it explained the pattern everyone was watching. The rewritten history, the erased relationships, the coordinated messaging, the strategic silence, the private meetings that replaced public accountability, the way every hard question got redirected or dismissed instead of answered. And when Joe Rogan reacted with visible shock to the allegations, It validated what millions were already thinking, but hesitant to say out loud. Because when someone known for questioning official narratives shows genuine disbelief, it tells people this isn't fringe speculation anymore. This is something that deserves serious scrutiny. But scrutiny is exactly what didn't happen. Instead, the response was containment. Critics were labeled as conspiracy theorists. Questions were framed as attacks. The conversation moved from public forums into private meetings where no one could verify what was actually said. Promised transparency turned into personal reassurance behind closed doors. And momentum that should have demanded answers just evaporated almost overnight. To some people, that looked like resolution. To others, it looked like damage control from someone with resources and connections powerful enough to make uncomfortable conversations disappear. What keeps this story alive isn't new evidence dropping every day. It's the absence of basic answers. Simple questions that should be easy to address remain completely ignored. Why were entire relationships scrubbed from history if they were innocent? Why do multiple figures from the same political circles keep appearing across different phases of the timeline? Why does every attempt at clarification turn into a request to stop asking questions? And here's the pattern that refuses to go away. Every single time pressure builds, the same thing happens. Public discussion gets redirected to private conversation. Bold claims get replaced with vague statements. Specifics never arrive. And people asking the hardest questions suddenly go quiet, often after closed-door meetings where they're told things they're not allowed to repeat. That's not how truth defends itself. Truth doesn't need controlled environments and selective disclosure. Truth doesn't require NDAs and strategic silence. Truth is simple, direct, and easy to verify. What we're seeing is the opposite of that. Meanwhile, Erika's own alleged sister came forward anonymously claiming the family was paid to stay silent, that Erika changed her maiden name years ago to erase connections to her past, that she had been engaged 3 times before Charlie, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Each relationship ending quietly, with NDAS and financial settlements. Each man silenced. Each history deleted. The sister claims Erika even terminated a pregnancy during one of those engagements because it didn't fit the timeline of the brand she was building. That she walked away from someone who begged her to stay because a baby would have ruined her trajectory. And within 2 years, she was Mrs. Kirk, positioned exactly where she needed to be. Then came the voice note that nobody was supposed to hear. Audio leaked from a private message where Erika's voice is unrecognizable from her public persona. No soft tone, no scripture, just pure rage and threats. I know she wants to destroy me. She thinks I'm scared. I'm not. Let her try. Let them all try. They're going to find out exactly what happens when you come for someone who's been built to survive. Built to survive. Not blessed, not called. Built, like a product, like a strategy, like someone who knew exactly what they were doing from the very beginning. Documents labeled The Garden Files started circulating online. Alleged screenshots from a private group chat where influential women in conservative media coordinated messaging, managed narratives, and decided who got platformed and who got blacklisted. Erika's name appeared repeatedly with a status label that made people's skin crawl. Protected asset. Protected by who? For what purpose? And why does someone need protection unless there's something that requires protecting? Brand partnerships started falling apart. A modest clothing line ended their relationship with Erika immediately, citing the need for transparency and accountability. A Christian publishing company put a book deal on indefinite pause. Other influencers who had appeared in content with Erika began quietly distancing themselves, deleting old posts, scrubbing collaborations from their feeds. And through all of it, Erica Kirk said almost nothing. One Instagram story. One old video of herself speaking at a conference with a caption about how God uses seasons of isolation to purify the message. That was it. No denial, no clarification, no timeline. Just spiritual language designed to reframe accountability as persecution. It worked for her core supporters. They doubled down, calling her brave, anointed, under attack from spiritual warfare. But everyone else saw it clearly. This wasn't a woman being persecuted for her faith. This was someone deploying faith as a shield against legitimate questions. Charlie Kirk himself finally broke his silence with 6 words on Twitter. "I know my wife. You don't." No thread, no explanation, no defense of specifics. Just a statement designed to end conversation rather than invite it. And that's when people started asking the hardest question of all. If Charlie knows everything, why defend her? And if he doesn't know everything, why defend her anyway? Both answers are uncomfortable. Either he's complicit in a coordinated deception, or he's the biggest victim in the entire story. A man who believed he was building a family when he was actually funding a project. A man whose legacy might have been leveraged before he even realized he was being positioned. Here's what we know for certain. Timelines don't match. Relationships were erased. Payments were made. Coordination happened before the relationship went public. DNA questions exist without answers. A sister claims the family was silenced. An ex-fiancé has receipts. Video exists of Erika saying love is optional. Voice notes exist of her threatening people who ask questions. And every attempt at transparency has resulted in more silence, not less. None of this has been proven in court. No official findings have confirmed the allegations. That matters legally, but it doesn't change the fact that perception has shifted permanently. And in public life, once perception changes, it rarely resets. The story people believed for years has cracks too wide to ignore. So here's where we are. This isn't about proving guilt beyond reasonable doubt. This is about recognizing a pattern. Rewritten history, managed access, strategic silence, private resolution replacing public accountability. When those elements appear together, people pay attention, and they should. Because the real danger isn't reaching the wrong conclusion. The real danger is not asking questions at all. Questions don't need to be true to be important. They just need to be unanswered long enough to reshape how everything is understood. If nothing was hidden, transparency would be easy. If everything was coincidence, timelines would align. If the story was as simple as presented, it wouldn't require this much effort to contain. But it does require effort. Constant, coordinated, expensive effort. And that tells you everything you need to know. The truth doesn't disappear just because people stop talking. It waits, and eventually it catches up. Always.